Good evening, all of you. Fine. So today it's an open session to discuss the prelims questions as far as IR is concerned. So basically, see, what is the purpose of this session? You have had a number of sessions by now, so of course you are aware of the purpose of this session. The purpose of the session, I'll just reiterate, is to give you an idea as to the pattern in which the question is being asked by UPSC. Yes, the purpose is not basically to discuss each and every question that has been asked over the past 5 years, but if we can identify certain patterns in the examination so as to aid you in your preparation. Yes, that is the purpose. And when it comes to IR, I think so there's a lot of confusion that students have. What should we study for prelims? Yes, often after my class I face this question as to what to study? Should we in fact prepare IR for prelims? Should we not prepare IR for prelims? And how to go about preparation? Because majority of what we study is analytical. It is bilateral relations or India's relations with regions. Yes, and it is generally not, it is not feasible that we study all that for prelims, and we do not expect questions from there. Yes, we do not expect a question from UPSC saying what actually led to India-US relations taking off. Yes, or say what happened to India-Iran relations, which were going steady, and there was a lot of scope for the improvement in the bilateral ties, and the two countries were at it. We were finalizing various agreements, but then what made us pause as far as India-Iran relations is concerned? So this is what we study, but this is not expected in prelims. Yes, so as far as prelims, which are the areas where we can expect question? If certain common themes are there on which UPSC has asked questions previously, yes, so we would try and identify that from prelims perspective, and that is the purpose of today's class. Yes, that is the reason we are all here, to discuss that, to try and identify those trends, identify if there are some recurring themes on which UPSC asks question in prelims. Fine. Any doubt that you have till now, you can ask me. Yes. How to make notes of which magazine? Current affairs magazines. Fine. Would you do one thing? Would you ask me this question towards the end of the class? Yes, that would be better. How to make notes, synopsis and all that we can discuss towards the end of the class. Anything else? Any other doubt? What is the static part in IR? So what is the static part in IR? Yes, IR is one subject which I think so has been thought to be extremely current affairs based, and rightly so. It is current affairs oriented subject. It is not like your polity, your history, your economics with a lot of basics coming in. Yes, but from our perspective, from UPSC's perspective, from prelims perspective, let us narrow it down there. What is the static portion that we can cover as far as IR is concerned? Or does IR have any static portion to be covered? And what is that? Yes? See, historical background of the bilateral ties is not necessarily required for prelims. That is the reason we said let's narrow it down to prelims. As far as prelims is concerned, the static portion would tantamount to international organizations, their member countries, important international organizations such as BRICS, on which typical static questions such as where was the first summit held has also been asked. Yes, what was the declaration after the first summit? For certain organizations only, such as BRICS, because BRICS is very, very important. Otherwise, the static portion in IR would be about international organizations. Yes. Second would be important declarations, if and whenever they have been announced. There have been, for example, Fortzella Declaration. BRICS came out sometime few years back, but it was asked in 2017-18. Yes, so you find that such important declarations of pivotal organizations, the headquarters, yes, these are certain areas, and you find that, in fact, when we talk about, for example, 2022, UPSC had asked a question on Senkaku Islands. And Senkaku Islands, I have been discussing, most of the IR faculties would have been discussing in their classes since time immemorial, especially since 2012, we have been paying special focus to the Senkaku Islands. So that is a static portion, but they have asked it in 2022 because it was in a news because of the territorial aggression shown by China. Yes, in fact, most of these regions that you study as part of territorial disputes, yes, this year they had asked Kachin state. Yes, Kachin state of Myanmar. Fine, but they had not mentioned it along with Myanmar. They've asked Catalonia. Catalonia in Spain has been an independence movement in this region for a past few decades now. Yes, so in fact, what happens is, these things, these problems have generally existed for quite some time. The territorial disputes between India and China, India and Pakistan, since India's independence more or less. Now if they ask a question on it, it does not mean it is a background type of a question. It was just in news, and that is the reason, that is the context from which they have drawn this question. Yes, so there might be certain, of course, current affairs based developments. For example, the coup that was going on in these African countries, Mali, Somalia, Chad, yes, so Sudan, not Somalia, Sudan. So these are certain current affair based happenings. Yes, so that is how it is. Yes, so static portion is substantial, but for static portion, what I'll just list down the areas that you need to prepare as far as IR, and that is the trend that they are almost following. Anything else? Fine, let us start with the discussion. And if you have any doubts as we proceed, you can go ahead and ask me. Fine. Now, as far as international relations is concerned, what is the importance of IR as far as your UPSC preparation is concerned? To be very specific, for your mains, for your prelims, I'll not get into the interview stage. Yes, these are the first two steps, so let us just discuss this. What is the importance of IR for mains?
Analysis of policy development, impact on India, any development.
Yes, these are the areas, the politics of developed and developing state, its impact on India, international organization, is India a member, not India a member, its impact on India. Yes, diaspora, India and the neighborhood. This is the syllabus that UPSC enlists as far as mains is concerned. Yes, and as far as mains examination is concerned, there is no doubt about the importance of IR. Yes, IR for a distinguished period of time has been considered as an important area which you will prepare as far as your mains preparation is concerned. And starting since 2015, UPSC has adhered to this trend of asking 4 questions in mains from IR. 2 questions, yes, now 2 questions are 15 markers, yes, and 2 questions are 10 markers. So basically you are consistently getting 50 marks questions that are asked from IR. Yes, And UPSC, if you look at the UPSC syllabus, as he was mentioning, the UPSC syllabus, as far as GS2 paper is concerned, Polity, Social Justice and International Relation, the UPSC enlists a syllabus for us. Is it exhaustive enough? That is another point, but they do enlist 4 or 5 points of the syllabus, they do mention. But when it comes to the prelims, this is where IR's importance has been disputed, has been a question of discussion. In fact, for that matter, UPSC's notification, as far as prelims syllabus is concerned, they do not mention any, there is no mention of IR in the prelims syllabus. Yes, there is no mention of IR in the prelims syllabus, and for the longest time students would not prepare IR from prelims perspective as well. Because as far as IR, unlike your topics like polity, economy, geography, environment, where they have been consistently asking good number of questions, IR was one area where questions would vary from 2 to at times 8. And there have been certain years, 2012, 2013, 0 questions from IR were asked. Yes. So of course, when there is a cost benefit analysis that is done, you are not sure what to prepare, how to prepare for IR. That is not your fault, that is not our fault, because UPSC had been such. It had been very inconsistent as far as IR section is concerned. Not many years they would ask many questions. Far and few, 1 or 2, 3 questions, 4 questions would be the general pattern, and there would be few years where they would not even ask a single question from the IR section. But now we find that UPSC throughout its examination process, they are evolving. Yes, they have come about with a drastic change as far as your essay paper is concerned for that matter. Yes, past 2 years they have completely shifted the pattern, 2021, 2022. Yes, also this year you find as far as your GS and CSAT paper is concerned, the GS paper was quite different. Yes, they had gone back a few years, 10 years back, the way they used to ask options. Statement 1 is correct, statement 2 is correct, statement 2 is the correct explanation of statement 1, statement 2 is not the correct explanation of statement 2. This was the trend of the question that UPSC used to ask previously, prior to 2011-10. They have gone back to it. They have also started introducing another level of difficulty by doing away, by tricking the students away from the elimination technique which we used to adhere to. Yes, if there are A, B, option A is 1, 2, option 2 is 2, 3, 4, 5, we could by elimination come down, at least narrow down to 2 options, and at times could eventually come out with the answer as well. But now that also they have done, they have started with only 1, only 2, only 3, all 4. Yes, that is the new pattern. So it is in this trend of changing the pattern, changing the kind of questions that they are asking, we find that UPSC has been quite consistent as far as IR is concerned in 2022 and in 2023. Yes, both these years they have asked 10 to 11 questions from the IR section. Yes, and therefore it has become even more essential to prepare IR. Previously we would prepare IR, but there would be this dilemma, how much time to give, not time to give, what to do, what not to do. Here we see an amalgamation of the trends. It is not that suddenly they have started asking some new type of question as far as IR is concerned. They are following the trend that they had been following for quite some time. On similar lines the question is asked, but past 2 years they have increased the number of questions that they have asked. And maybe it is also a reflection of the fact that today the world is becoming so very globalized that your newspapers, the editorials, out of the 4 editorial on the 2 pages, at least 1 is an IR topic. Yes, and it would not be an exaggeration if on most days 2 of those topics are IR. And if you are referring to 2 newspapers in a day, you are reading more or less 2-3 editorials on IR. Yes, so maybe because of that trend, we are just guessing it out here, but this is the trend that we see, that consistently they have asked for past 2 years quite a few number of questions of IR, and the kind of question that they are asking, they are being consistent in it throughout the UPSC pattern. Last 10-15 years, if you look at the question, the kind of questions they have been asking has been consistent. Fine. Now having understood that yes, maybe IR is one topic which we would not ignore, or which we would pay adequate attention to, the next question that arises is, what to study? What to study as far as prelims for the IR section? Yes. In prelims, what are the areas from which you expect questions? Yes. Now, these are the areas, you may list it down, you may write it down for yourself. They are asking questions vis-a-vis regions in news. Yes. So, certain regions which are in news, maybe because of certain dispute, maybe because of some conflict. Yes. And they are asking you to match these regions with the countries. Yes, match these regions with the countries. The next area from which they are asking question is disputed territories. Disputed territories and dispute between. You need to know it is a dispute between which two countries. Yes. Third, with respect to countries which are in turmoil or witnessing extreme instability, they are asking question as far as the neighboring states or neighboring countries. Yes, here I have mentioned countries. There can also be landlocked seas, for example Caspian Sea and stuff is also very, very important. Black Sea, Caspian Sea, and all these countries, they are littoral. So, countries in turmoil or these regions. For example, there was an agreement which was reached between the countries on Caspian Sea in 2019, and they had asked a question whereby the littoral country of Caspian Sea was asked. Fine. So, here Black Sea also let me mention. So, all these become important. Another area from which UPSC has traditionally been asking question is international organizations or multilateral agreements. Agreements, treaties. The member states is very, very important. Member states, the headquarters, and important declarations, if any. Important declarations, if any. In another area on which UPSC asks question is, I always bring this area within IR, is with respect to world mapping. World mapping. These questions, yes, of course, it can be covered by studying world geography, but there is a limit to how much you can answer these questions from world geography. In fact, you require the aid of IR. Without IR, you would not be able to answer a few questions in world mapping sections. Yes. For example, let me give you an example. For example, they have asked questions, say on Levant region. Yes. Now if somebody did not understand what do we mean by Levant region, yes, previously, prior to 2019, they've asked questions on Maghreb region. If you did not understand Maghreb region, you could not answer the question. They had asked which is the prominent geographical feature in the Maghreb region. So you required the knowledge of IR, yes, and we'll discuss it. We'll discuss it further. For example, Levant region is one of the favorite areas of UPSC. Year on year they ask question from Levant region. Yes, why it is favorite? It is not born out of its geography. It is born out of the fact that it is politically tumultuous region. Yes, and therefore they have been asking questions from there, and they have asked questions, for example, out of these many countries of the Levant region which do not have border with Mediterranean or which do not have coast with Mediterranean Sea in the past. Yes, so you find that those questions can only be answered when you are looking at map from a political science perspective or from an IR perspective. Only then you are able to answer those questions. Otherwise, there is no reason for you to look at maybe the locations of these countries in relation to one another. Yes, it is only when you look at the locations of these countries in relation to one another you are able to answer such questions. Fine. So that is the reason several questions which might be included at the face of it in world mapping, world geography, can in fact be answered better if we know IR, if we have studied IR. For example, they have asked a question on last year itself, I think so, or 2019, sometime we'll just discuss a question on Siachen Glacier. Of course, Siachen Glacier you would have studied in your geography, and it's world mapping, India's mapping. But Siachen Glacier we have also discussed as far as bilateral disputes between India and Pakistan, and only when you have studied it from that perspective, maybe you have looked at the exact location of Siachen. Yes, the location of Siachen, vis-a-vis Siachen we used to always mention in the class that it is source of two rivers, Nubra and Shiok river. Now if you knew that, that question could have been, maybe you would have been in a better position to answer that question. Yes, so that is how it is. So therefore certain questions of geography, of mapping, world mapping I say in particular, can be answered better through your IR knowledge. Fine, fine. So these are the areas that we need to prepare as far as prelims is concerned. From IR perspective, these would be the areas. You would not be studying bilateral relations between countries per se, but these areas. And see, please understand one thing, that your UPSC preparation as such is an intermix. You do not study prelims completely separated from your mains preparation. In fact, the expectation is throughout the year you study only mains. Yes, it is only 3 months prior to prelims examination that you pick up your, or you stop looking at analysis much and start focusing a little more on facts. Yes, but by now you would also know, you would have seen questions, you have seen these sessions, you would also know that UPSC does not ask pure fact. Yes, it is at lower level examinations, SSC, maybe state PSC, they ask more of facts, but UPSC asks more of concepts. And those concepts are taught to you while you are studying mains. Yes, so if supposedly a pivotal development has taken place as far as India-US relation this year. Now, if you have studied that as a part of your mains preparation, supposedly a question is asked on those lines, you would be in a position to answer that question. Yes, what we are trying to do when we are studying from prelims perspective, we are trying to focus our energy more on the type of questions, more on those areas from which UPSC prelims questions will be asked. Yes, but please, it is an entire bundle. So even if some question were to be asked otherwise, you would be in a position, and from the mains area, whereby you would be in a position to answer those questions. Yes, that is the idea. But yes, these are the few areas that you need to focus as far as your prelims preparation is concerned for the IR section. Now as far as prelims preparation is concerned for the IR section, I'll keep on telling you as we discuss the questions some recurring themes on which UPSC asks question. But anyways, you can list down a few. UN is one of the favorite topics of UPSC. है ना, UN से एक टाइम था जब UNSC membership reform से ही वो बहुत सारे questions उन्होंने पूछे हैं. Fine. So UN is one area that you will prepare thoroughly. Yes, from mains as well as prelims perspective, UPSC loves to ask questions from UN. They'll just pick up a term. Yes, for example, they've asked questions such as simple questions as G4. They've asked a question on coffee club. They've asked a question on uniting for peace resolution. Yes, so they've asked such questions previously. Recently, they've asked questions on UN General Assembly, UNSC they ask questions on. Fine, so it is one of the favorite areas. So when you are studying your current affairs also, any important development, any important treaty coming by the way of UN, pay special attention because UPSC tends to ask around it. Yes, so that is one area. Another area would be EU. Under EU you can mention the important treaties and structures. Important treaties and structures. Important treaties and its structure, from which also this is another area from which UPSC likes to ask question. Next, mention the Levant region, comma the Persian Gulf, Red Sea, Caspian Sea, Mediterranean Sea, Black Sea, Baltic Sea. Yes, these are another important areas from which UPSC likes to ask question. The countries surrounding this region, the important straits in this region. Yes, their UPSC tends to ask questions from here. Next area you can mention some important international organizations. BRICS is one of the favorite. BRICS. G20, SCO, they'll ask questions from SAARC and BIMSTEC, yes, comma, write down international organizations, international organizations from West Asia. So be it GCC, be it Arab League, be it OPEC, be it OIC, all these organizations will be important. International organizations from West Asia such as GCC, Arab League, OIC, Organization for Turkic Cooperation. And this organization of Turkic countries basically. That is also one area. Yes, OPEC, OPEC, OPEC plus, OIC, have you written? OIC. Yes, so these are from this region, regional organizations, they tend to ask questions on it. I2U2 आएगा, बिल्कुल आएगा. I2U2 is in fact a pivotal, उसमें मेंस पे भी क्वेश्चन आया था. कुछ भी अगर लैंडमार्क होता है तो UPSC tends to ask a question. So I2U2 also marked a landmark shift in West Asia. है ना, Abraham Accords हुआ. Yes, so इस तरह का जो भी इस तरह के development है, because this region is है ना politically volatile. So any development there, yes, they tend to ask question. Fine. So some indicative list we have started with, and as we discuss, if we find some other theme which is recurring, we'll keep jotting it down. Fine. So let us start with the discussion. Fine, so these are some of the questions that were asked in Prelims 2023. Yes, consider the following countries: Bulgaria, Czech Republic, Hungary, Latvia, Lithuania, Romania. How many of the above countries share border with Ukraine? Yes, basically the idea was Ukraine was in news because of Russia-Ukraine war, therefore the countries surrounding it. And by, of course, the elimination technique would not really work, but at least if we know, if we have some basic idea that Latvia and Lithuania are in fact Baltic states, so of course they cannot be countries surrounding Ukraine. Fine. So here, this is Ukraine and these are the countries surrounding it. So accordingly, yes, we will have to answer this question. Fine. Which one of the following countries has been suffering from decades of civil strife and food shortages and was in news in recent past for its severe famine? Somalia, yes, even if you were not updated with the news, one of the countries suffering from decades of civil strife and food shortages and famines is associated with, in fact, Somalia. Yes. Now recently, these are the two statements. Recently, US and EU have launched the Trade and Technology Council. US and EU claim that through this they are trying to bring technological progress and physical productivity under their control. Fine. See, if we had not known this fact, the first statement, we really don't know what to do about it. You know it or you do not know it, that they have in fact launched a Trade and Technology Council. Yes, but the second statement, just trying to draw your attention. See, if you knew it, well and good. If you did not know it, this statement is reading that US and EU claim through this that they are trying to bring technological progress and physical productivity under their control. Under their control sounds wrong. Yes, because both US and EU are liberal economies, free market economies. Yes, even if they had turned protectionist, yes, under Trump, US had turned protectionist, but they decide to give a free hand to the people, to their citizens. They might discourage free trade, but will give free hand to the people. Yes, so it is in this context, this statement automatically sounding wrong. But yes, so if we knew it, the first statement is correct and the second statement is wrong, because they had tried to coordinate technological progress and physical productivity rather than trying to bring it under their control. So the answer would be yes, statement 1 is correct, statement 2 is incorrect. Then there is this Stability and Growth Pact, yes, growth path of EU is a treaty that, this treaty was concluded around 2018, yes, and this treaty was in terms of to ensure fiscal discipline amongst the countries. If you knew this treaty, this is an important treaty under EU in the recent times, and it is about, it limits the level of budgetary deficit, yes, of the countries of European Union, fiscal deficit, budgetary deficit. makes the countries of EU to share their infrastructure facilities. It is Stability and Growth Pact, enables the countries of EU to share their technologies. Yes, both these two statements are incorrect. Only the first statement, that it would limit the level of budgetary deficit of the countries of EU. Yes, so like you were asking, if there is a static portion, maybe this is the static portion because it was asked in 2023. Yes, it might have been briefly in news, but otherwise it was a treaty which was signed in 2018. Fine. And also you could, it becomes difficult to get such hints in the exam, and it is advisable not to go by such hints. But anyways, we understand as far as EU is concerned, they have established a Eurozone. Yes, and if there is a Eurozone, so they try, through the Eurozone, they have a common monetary policy. And very early on, they had started emphasizing some sort of a fiscal discipline. Yes, some sort of a discipline in terms of budgetary deficits, in terms of fiscal deficits as far as membership criteria. As a part of the membership criteria, usko bolte Copenhagen criteria for membership of EU. They had started emphasizing on it. Yes, so maybe if we just knew that, and if we could draw that link, that could also help us to maybe answer that question. Give us a hint on that, in that context vis-a-vis that question. Fine. The next is, recently all countries of UN have doctored on the first ever compact for international migration, the Global Compact for Safe and Orderly and Regular Migration. The objective and commitments stated under GCM, Global Compact for Migration, are binding on the member countries. The GCM addresses internal migration or internally displaced people also in its objective and commitments. Yes, so you had to know this GCM. GCM is the first ever such pact which has been concluded under the UN. So if you knew GCM, you could answer this question. It was a relatively simple question if you knew GCM. Yes, and what about GCM? So recently all countries of UN, है ना, first statement क्या है? All countries of UN have doctored on first ever compact for international migration, the Global Compact for Safe, Orderly and Regular Migration. Now all countries is not correct, not all countries. Few countries such as Austria and all had some problem and they decided not to join. It was supported by 160 plus countries. Yes, the objective and are binding on the UN member states? No, it is non-binding. It was legally non-binding, and it addresses internal migration or internally displaced people also in its objective and commitment. In fact, look at the first statement. The first statement itself says first ever compact for international migration. So it of course does not talk about internal migration, it deals with international migration alone. Fine. So you find that this statement is also incorrect, and therefore none of the statements are correct here. Once again, question around regions which are in news and reason for which they are in news. So this is one area where they have been regularly asking questions. North Kivu and Ituri, Nagorno and Karabakh, and Kherson and Zaporizhia. Kherson and Zaporizhia we know in context of Russia-Ukraine, yes. Nagorno and Karabakh was also in news last year. Armenia-Azerbaijan conflict के context में it was in news. Yes, and North Kivu and Ituri, it is one area which has faced a lot of turmoil. DRC में है ये, है ना? You find it is in DRC, so you find जो भी अब इन्होंने तीनों के जो भी है ना, the match the following, all the three are wrong for that matter. Yes, Kherson and Zaporizhia it is Russia, Ukraine. Nagorno and Karabakh should be Armenia and Azerbaijan, and North Kivu and Ituri is in DRC. Fine, so you can, I have Luhansk, Donetsk, they form the Donbas region, and you have Zaporizhia and Kherson. Zaporizhia also has the nuclear power plant of Ukraine and it is in news. And Crimea they had annexed in 2014 में. फिर अज़रबैजान अर्मीनिया में ये है ना नोगोर्नो काराबाख रीजन है, एंड डीआरसी में इतूरी, नॉर्थ कीवू, साउथ कीवू, काफ़ी पॉलिटिकली वॉलेटाइल रीजन्स है, यहाँ पे काफ़ी कन्फ्लिक्ट्स रहे हैं हमेशा. फाइन, नेक्स्ट इज कंसिडर द फॉलोइंग स्टेटमेंट. Israel has established diplomatic relations with some Arab states. Yes, we all know in context of Abraham Accord, in context of I2U2, that in fact they had recently established relations with UAE, then they went on with Bahrain, Morocco. Yes, साउथ सुदान के साथ भी किया था. तो अरब स्टेट एटलीस्ट हमें ये तो पता है कि यू हैव UAE एंड Bahrain. ठीक है, ये तो फॉर श्योर क्लैरिटी है. मोरक्को ऑल्सो कंसिडर्ड एज एन अरब स्टेट. सो यू फाइंड दैट येस. और उससे पहले भी इफ़ यू नो, इफ़ यू हैव स्टडीड द टॉपिक ऑफ इजराइल एंड अब्राहम अकॉर्ड्स, यू वुड हैव स्टडीड दैट ऑल्सो countries Egypt and Jordan long back had normalized their relations. Egypt after or in 1979 and Jordan in 1994 they had normalized. After that UAE was the third Arab country to normalize their ties with Israel. So yes, Israel has established diplomatic relations with some Arab states. That is right, not all Arab states. If you know the brief history, Arab states are sympathetic to the Palestinian cause, and therefore they have chosen not to normalize their ties with Israel. Fine. Next statement is the Arab Peace Initiative mediated by Saudi Arabia was signed by Israel and Arab League. Any such initiative, has it been signed? No such initiative has been signed. In fact, the Arab Peace Initiative was suggested some time back in 2000s decade. It was suggested and as a part of the Arab Peace Initiative, Israel was asked to forego the territories that it has encroached upon of Palestine. Yes, so to withdraw back from the encroached upon or acquired territories of Palestine, Israel has never agreed to signing such an initiative, because of course it is not willing to withdraw from those territories. And in fact it was in news because Saudi Arabia, there was a brief news saying Saudi Arabia has once again emphasized on Arab Peace Initiative, that it continues to believe in Arab Peace Initiative before it would, before normalizing ties with Israel. So only once Israel agrees to this, Saudi Arabia is going to normalize ties with Israel, and Saudi Arabia is the leader of the Arab world. Fine. So you have statement 2, statement 1 is correct and statement 2 is incorrect. Once again, areas of conflict and they were mentioned in the news. Donbas region, just now we have discussed, है ना, Luhansk and Donetsk. तो ये सीरिया में नहीं है, ये यूक्रेन में है, ईस्टर्न यूक्रेन, काचिन म्यांमार में है. Yes, and Tigray is in Ethiopia. Yes, so what is the requirement of UPSC? You cannot not read your newspaper. Newspaper has become very, very important because it so happens that the development that are happening, the conflicts that are going on, say in the Arab states, say in African countries, it is not within the scope of any class to cover it if it is being conducted from mains and prelims perspective both. It becomes very difficult there. So it has become essential that you read your newspapers. Yes, so of course maybe Russia-Ukraine conflict, we can know the Donbas region, Kherson, Zaporizhia, maybe in Myanmar also. If we are doing in very detail, we will mention we might just have a passing reference to the Kachin state. But beyond that, today it has become very, very essential that you read your newspapers, and if you are reading your newspapers regularly, you would not know, but in no time you would be also ingraining these facts. Yes, and when it comes in the exam and when these are such simple questions, you would be able to recall and write it, mark it correctly. So it is very, very essential that you keep thorough with your newspapers, making notes out of them. Now it is individual prerogative only if you are able to make notes in a very short period of time. Yes, if you are very efficient in it, and that efficiency actually comes with practice. Now I leave it to each one of you if you make notes out of newspaper or not, but one thing that you need to do is read your newspapers regularly. Only then you will be able to answer such questions. They are asking, briefly in news an issue was there, and they are picking up that issue and asking a question on it. Fine. So that would be required. Fine. So once again you find that none of the above areas of conflict are correctly matched. Yes, this is the map of Myanmar. Myanmar, if you know, Myanmar has, for administrative purpose, it is organized in the form of in the form of 7 states and 7 regions. We can call it regions, or we can also call it divisions. Yes. Now which are these 7 states? The frontier region of Myanmar. The frontier region of Myanmar is divided into 7 states, and Burma proper, which is the central portion of Myanmar, which is inhabited by Burmese majority. And the frontier region is inhabited by ethnic minorities. And Myanmar is one country which has been in a state of civil war, several civil wars ongoing continuously for several decades now. Yes. So that is Myanmar. And why so many civil wars in Myanmar? Because it is the frontier region which is inhabited by ethnic minority, which is in fact rich in resources. Yes, the Burma proper, which is inhabited by Burmese majority, the military also comprises majority of the Burmese, but it is not a resource rich region. In fact, the unified map of Myanmar was a consequence of the Panglong Agreement that was negotiated by the father of Aung San Suu Kyi. Yes. Yes, ये सारे states का नाम है ना, उनके जो majority tribes है, minority tribes, उन्हीं के ऊपर है. Yes, and Kachin state is very, very resource rich. If you know this mineral known as jade, yes, it is a stone which is very sought after and rarely found, is found in the Kachin state. Yes, and you find that you have Kachin Independence Army, and it is waging a civil war against the central government there. Fine. So that is, you have the Mon state, once again on the name of the Mon tribe, है ना. यहाँ पे सारे ये जो state है, Shan, है ना, you have the Karen, they are all based on the name of the majority population. जो ethnic minorities है वैसे, but उस state में majority में find किए जाते हैं. Fine. Next question. In recent years, Chad, Guinea, Mali and Sudan have caught international attention. For which one of the following reasons? Coups, and not just coups but successful coups. They have been able to remove the then serving government. A question on G20, some would include it as part of economics. We also emphasize G20 as a part of IR portion. Yes, so your G20 was originally established as a platform for finance ministers and central bank governors, yes, to discuss international economic and financial issues. And digital public interest structure is India's G20 priorities. Both statements are correct. Fine, so these were some of the questions, or in fact the questions from IR that were asked in prelims 2022, 2023, now prelims 2022. The Levant, which is often heard in news, roughly corresponds to which one of the following? Is it the entire coastal area of Mediterranean Sea? No. Region from Persian Gulf to Horn of Africa? No. Region along North African shores stretching from Egypt to Morocco? No. It is region along the eastern Mediterranean shores. This is the Levant region. This is the Mediterranean Sea and here. So Egypt to Morocco nahi hai na? It is, and not the entire shore area of Mediterranean, it is just the eastern shore of Mediterranean, and this is one area a lot many questions are asked. ठीक है, यहाँ पे अब you would have studied also, यहाँ पे गोलान हाइट्स है ना, Golan Heights, Sea of Galilee, उन पे भी previously UPSC has asked questions. Yes, they've asked questions, which of these 4 countries do not have a Mediterranean shore? So it is Jordan. Yes, you have Syria has, Lebanon has, Israel has, Jordan does not have. Out of these 4 countries only Jordan. Cyprus is an island. तो ये सबका जो भी Levant region में है, सबका Mediterranean shore है except Jordan. Fine, and at times you find Sinai Peninsula is also included, and यहाँ पे जो एक छोटा सा है ना portion, a finger-like projection of Turkey, the Hatay province is also included as part of the Levant region. Consider the following countries, which of them have borders with Afghanistan? Yes, so on those similar lines, Azerbaijan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan. In fact, there was a meeting which was organized by UN. Yes, 6+2+1 meeting. अगर वो भी पढ़ा है, उसमें भी 6 countries कौन से थे? 6 countries were the physical neighbors. The 6 countries were also the physical neighbors of Afghanistan. So in that context also we had studied this. Yes, 6+2+1. So 1 is Afghanistan itself, 2 is the 2 global powers, US and Russia, and 6 are the 6 physical neighbors of Afghanistan. So which are the 6 physical neighbors? You have 3 Central Asian republics, है ना? तो 3 Central Asian republics में कौन कौन से हैं? You have Turkmenistan, you have Uzbekistan and you have Tajikistan. ठीक है, उसके अलावा Pakistan of course has a border. For India to access Afghanistan, we are seeking access through Iran, and otherwise China also has a very small border along the Wakhan corridor. So accordingly you can answer this question. Yes, so these are the 3 Central Asian republics. So Central Asian republics, Central Asia is also one of the very, very important areas. Yes, SCO we have mentioned, but otherwise also Central Asia itself, Ashgabat agreement पे UPSC ने question पूछा है, SCO पे question पूछा है, INSTC corridor पे पूछ सकते हैं, and I think so in the past they would have asked a question on INSTC corridor as well. Fine, so these are Tapi gas pipeline, है ना, all, और अभी भी नए नए जो agreements हो रहे हैं इस area में, all would be very, very important. C+C5 summit, all these are important developments as far as Central Asia, and for Central Asia you need to know each of their capitals and their relative position. Yes, so you have Kazakhstan, then Uzbekistan, then Turkmenistan, and then you have Uzbekistan which stretches out like this. You have Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan. Their relative location, यहाँ पे कौन से important rivers हैं, है ना? You need to know this region very, very well. Aral Sea is there, so you need to know, है ना? ये region should be, you should know it very well, because यहाँ पे भी बहुत सारा turmoil है. It is also a region of great politics. Yes, great games that is being played. And then Afghanistan in the neighborhood, very, very tumultuous region. Iran in the neighborhood, very, very tumultuous region. Caspian Sea in the neighborhood, जिसपे you find that until very recently several countries would claim, है ना, lay claim on Caspian Sea. So there used to be dispute vis-a-vis Caspian Sea as well. Fine. So a very geopolitically active region this is. Consider, acha, one another very important areas from which UPSC has been regularly asking question would be MECRs. MECRs, मल्टीलैटरल एक्सपोर्ट कंट्रोल रेजीम्स, है ना. इससे भी प्रीलिम्स में वो बार बार क्वेश्चन पूछते हैं. देर आर 4 MECRs. यस, विच आर दोज? NSG है, न्यूक्लियर सप्लायर्स ग्रुप. देन यू हैव द ऑस्ट्रेलिया ग्रुप, you have Wassenaar agreement, and you have MTCR, Missile Technology Control Regime. Yes, of all these 4 MECRs, US is a member country. Yes, US is a member country of all the 4 MECRs. India is a member country of these 3 MECRs. And India is wanting full membership of NSG as well. We have a special waiver from NSG. Yes, since 2008, India has a special waiver from NSG. However, India's claim to NSG membership is blocked by China, Turkey, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, some of the countries at the forefront blocking India's membership, but primarily by China. Yes, and China क्या है? China सिर्फ इसी का member है, इन तीनों का नहीं है China. Yes, China has been denied membership of all these 3 groupings. Why? Because of its irresponsible proliferation record. Yes, China has helped in proliferation of these sensitive technologies to Pakistan, North Korea, etc. Yes, and therefore China has been denied membership of these 3. It is present in NSG. And therefore, China becomes one of the critical factors why India is denied membership of NSG. Why? Because NSG operates through consensus. So what is each of them? Is it a formal grouping? Is it an informal grouping? In sab pe, hai na, they have already, UPSC has asked a question on Australia and Wassenaar. Here, a very simple question they have asked as far as MTCR is concerned. But these 4 would be important and they should be thoroughly prepared. Fine. How many member countries? When did India join? What it is dealing with exactly? And एक important area है इन तीनों का देख लेना. Is it a formal or an informal grouping? This is important. Yes. So इसको distinguish करना ज़रूरी है. Fine. So now the question, consider the following. Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank is important. Maybe in economics you would have studied it. हम चाइना के context में भी हम कई बार mention करते हैं AIIB. India, though not a party to BRI, has joined AIIB. और India ने क्यों नहीं BRI join किया था? What was the reason given by India? Our sovereignty, it is disrespectful of India's territorial integrity and sovereignty, opaque decision making, and India had said it long back that it would result into death traps. One of the primary reasons, opaque nature of BRI की वजह से हमने join नहीं किया था. AIIB we joined and India said we are joining AIIB because it is transparent. Negotiations में ही India का participation था. Yes, so we are a founding member, though we did not join BRI. China-led initiative, we have joined AIIB, which is once again a China-led initiative, but this is a transparent initiative. Yes, India has been part of the negotiations when it was established. In fact, India is one of the primary beneficiaries of AIIB. We lend substantially from AIIB. Yes, and India is the second largest stakeholder in AIIB after China. Fine. अगर AIIB पढ़ रहे हो तो you should also study NDB, है ना, न्यू डेवलपमेंट बैंक अंडर ब्रिक्स इनिशिएटिव, है ना, और एक कंटिजेंसी रिजर्व फंड कंटिजेंसी रिजर्व फैसिलिटी, वो भी है ना, दोनों का साथ में अंडर ब्रिक्स दे हैव टेकन दिस इनिशिएटिव. तो ब्रिक्स पढ़ोगे तो ऑटोमेटिकली यू विल स्टडी एनडीबी and this contingency reserve facility. Fine. So of these, India is a member of which of the above? I just told you, इसका member है, MTCR का member है India. Shanghai Cooperation Organization, is India a member? Yes. So we are also a member of Shanghai since 2016 या 17. We are a member along with Pakistan. और अभी उसके बाद इंडिया और पाकिस्तान के बाद ईरान 2023 में ईरान हैज़ ऑल्सो joined under India's presidency of SCO. Fine. So we are a member of all the three. Now which of the following statements are correct? Vietnam has been one of the fastest growing economies in the world in the recent years. Yes, one of the growing emerging economy है. Vietnam is led by multi-party political system. It is communist party, one party system है वहाँ पे. Vietnam's export growth is linked to integration with global supply chains and focus on exports. Yes or no? Yes, yes. है ना, वो RCEP का भी member है ना, आपने है ना, ASEAN का है तो of course RCEP में है ये, है ना. सो यू फाइंड दैट वियतनाम, और बहुत सारा ऐसा हो रहा है ना कि सेवरल इंडस्ट्रीज ऑफ इंडिया आर फेसिंग कॉम्पिटिशन फ्रॉम वियतनाम. In fact, one of the arguments we used to give in support of should India join RCEP, we used to say that if India does not join RCEP, we will lose out markets to Vietnam. Indian advantages, certain Indian advantages to Vietnam. Fine. Because it will become more export competitive. So it is in fact integration with global supply chains and focus on exports. And for a long time, low labor cost and stable exchange rates have attracted foreign manufacturers. Yes, this is the fourth statement. Fifth statement is Vietnam has the most is the most productive in e-service sector in the Indo-Pacific region. Yes, so for the long time, low labor cost and stable exchange rates have attracted global manufacturers. Yes or no? Yes, Vietnam is known for low labor cost, for stable exchange rate भी रहा है ना. And Vietnam is the has the most productive e-service sector in the Indo-Pacific region. Is it yes or no? This is not correct. There are other, है ना, इंडोनेशिया, मलेशिया, सिंगापुर, है ना, इन लोग ज़्यादा ई सर्विस में अच्छा परफॉर्म करते हैं. फाइन. इंडिया ऑल्सो वी कैन से दैट, है ना, इंडो पैसिफिक रीजन है तो इंडिया ऑल्सो. सो दिस इज ऑल्सो मोस्ट प्रोडक्टिव तो नहीं है. यस, वन ऑफ द प्रोडक्टिव बोलते तो फिर भी सोचते, बट मोस्ट प्रोडक्टिव तो नहीं है. इज़ वन ऑफ द फास्टेस्ट, ठीक है, वन ऑफ द फास्टेस्ट है, ठीक है. ये वाला स्टेटमेंट गलत है, एंड दीज टू स्टेटमेंट्स आर करेक्ट. Yes, so if you just know, maybe we do not directly know about Vietnam's export growth and all economic growth, but if we knew that yes, it is part of RCEP, this discussion that we would be losing out to Vietnam, when we talk about all these agreements, be it RCEP and other multilateral economic agreements, we talk about regional value chains and global value chains, you would have been in a position to mark out this answer if you knew that yes, it is a one party, communist party, one party led system, and यहाँ पे that most productive e-service sector तो नहीं है. Yes, so through that you could answer this question. 5 point ये है, Vietnam has the most productive e-service, है ना, ये is नहीं है, e-service sector. ये वन पार्टी कम्युनिस्ट स्टेट है, और दूसरा इट इज नॉट द मोस्ट प्रोडक्टिव. नाउ विथ रेफरेंस टू यूनाइटेड नेशंस क्रेडेंशियल्स कमिटी, कंसिडर द फॉलोइंग स्टेटमेंट. इट वाज आल्सो इन न्यूज़ दैट टाइम. व्हाई वाज इट इन न्यूज़? बिकॉज ऑफ तालिबान in Afghanistan and junta regime in Myanmar. Yes, so as to see if they can continue to be the members of UN despite these regimes. So will UN recognize these governments? What to do about it? So it is in this context the United Nations Credential Committee was in news. So it is a committee set up by UN Security. See, if you knew this, only then you could answer this question. Otherwise, ये possible नहीं है. Is it set up by UN Security Council? नहीं, it is set up by UN General Assembly. Yes, it traditionally meets in March, June, September. No, it meets, है ना? There is a set period from September to December. It meets regularly. उसके बाद जैसे जैसे अगर ज़रूरत है तब वो मिलते हैं. Yes, and it assesses the credential of all UN members before submitting a report to the General Assembly for approval. This is the only correct statement. They do consider the credential of say Taliban and junta regime. Uske context mein it was in news. To review the credentials of these two governments. With reference to United Nations General Assembly, consider the following statements. It can grant observer status to non-member states. Yes, common sense will also say that yes, maybe you might just get a little confused with UNSC, but UNSC will not be in a position to grant observer status. Yes, their consent might be required, but who will grant? It will be UN General Assembly. UN General Assembly can grant observer status to non-member states. Member states को क्यों observer status चाहिए? Yes, you understand? Observer countries are non-member countries. Yes, what is the difference between an observer and a member state? हाँ, वीटो पावर तो सिर्फ P5 के पास है, वोटिंग राइट्स नहीं होते उनके पास, है ना. तो यही होता है कि full member will have all the rights. Yes, they will fully participate and have all the rights. Observer countries will basically come and observe the proceedings of a meeting. Yes, if they consider the organization important enough, they would be there to listen to what is and how it is being negotiated and discussed. And observer states do not have voting rights. Yes, so that is restricted. Now, ठीक है, UN General Assembly can grant observer status to non-member states, of course to non-member states only. Intergovernmental organization can seek observer status in UN General Assembly. Yes, intergovernmental organization. In fact, it was in news because International Solar Alliance को इन्होंने observer status दिया था. And permanent observers in UN General Assembly can maintain missions at the UN headquarters. This is also a correct statement. So in fact, all the three statements are correct. 1, 2, 3, all are correct. So I hope you are getting the gist, है ना. UN में इस बार इस तरह के questions पूछे इन सालों में. Previously, as I was telling you, UN membership पे बहुत questions पूछते थे. UN is one of the favorite areas. They'll ask question. UN है ना, global compact on migration. Otherwise also they are asking question. Now once again these were regions, cities in news. Now Bidi Bidi is a large refugee settlement in northwestern Kenya. Yes, some people who have fled from South Sudan civil war to live in Bidi Bidi, and some people who have fled from civil war in Somalia live in the Dadaab refugee complex in Kenya. In fact, this statement is correct, है ना. The Dadaab refugee complex is in fact in Kenya, and people who are fleeing the civil war in Somalia reach there. People who are fleeing the civil war in South Sudan also reach there. But you find that this Bidi Bidi is a refugee camp not in Kenya but in Uganda. Uganda में है ये camp. So factual information, if you knew it, you could answer it. और अगर न्यूज़पेपर्स पढ़ते रहोगे तो इस तरह का इन्फॉर्मेशन मिलता रहता है. बिकॉज ऐसा नहीं होता, एक दिन नहीं आते इन पे न्यूज़ ना. देयर वुड बी जनरली for 10-15 days here and there, है ना, on and off, they will have these news articles coming up. Yes, and why was it in news? In fact, because Kenya is going to close the Dadaab refugee camp. तो इस context में ये news में था उस समय. Now, organization of Turkic states. Which are the member countries of organization of Turkic states? Turkic है ना, तो जो Turkic states कौन से होंगे, जो उनका एक है ना एथनो लिंग्विस्टिक है ना ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, टर्किक स्पीकिंग पीपल एंड है ना वो रेशियली भी सिमिलर है. सो एथनो लिंग्विस्टिक ग्रुपिंग है बेसिकली. एंड विच आर द मेंबर स्टेट्स ऑफ ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ऑफ टर्किक स्टेट्स? You have Kazakhstan, you have Azerbaijan, of course you have Turkey and Kyrgyzstan. These were the 4 founding member countries. These were the 4 founding member countries of Organization of Turkic States. And now you have you find that Uzbekistan has joined. Uzbekistan has joined. Yes, in October 2019 Uzbekistan has joined. So accordingly you can talk about the member countries. क्या है? उज्बेकिस्तान एंड अजरबैजान. अर्मीनिया, क्रोएशिया, रोमानिया नहीं है. फाइन. Which one of the following statements best reflects issues with Senkaku Islands? Senkaku Islands क्यों रहते हैं न्यूज़ में? It is a conflict, South China Sea ने East China Sea में conflict between Taiwan, Japan and China. In fact Taiwan का भी उन्होंने भी एक special name दे रखा है इसको. But anyways, it is a conflict between Japan and China. Yes, let me just show it to you. Yes, so this is ये इनके सदर्न आइलैंड्स जो जापान के हैं है ना, ओकिनावा के भी नीचे you have the Senkaku Islands. Senkaku Islands are very close to Taiwan and therefore vis-a-vis Taiwan crisis Japan has a lot of stake. ठीक है, ताइवान क्राइसिस पे बहुत ज़्यादा स्टेक है जापान का. इन इनफैक्ट अभी किशिडा was है ना the Prime Minister of Japan was moving around the world and he had also come to India. And he gave the vision of free and open Indo-Pacific. Yes, and it was basically in context of he was very much concerned that what has happened in Ukraine can happen with Taiwan. And he said it can happen in East Asia as well. Yes, and Japan is very concerned about the developments in Taiwan, because if Taiwan under the control of China, then China comes very close to Senkaku and very close to Japan basically. Yes, Japan का भी access out है ना to the Malacca Strait and rest of Asia is through this region. It hampers Japanese access. This is not a good resolution map anyways. तो ये जो pink line है वो China का designated area 10 डैश लाइन कर दिया है उन्होंने. 9 तो साउथ चाइना सी में, 10 मतलब ताइवान को भी ले लेते हैं उसके अंदर. ठीक है, तो ये चाइना क्लेम्स दिस एंटायर रीजन, whereas Japan believes that this region is part of Japanese है ना टेरिटरी. तो यहाँ Senkaku Islands is in between. Then you have a question on UNCLOS. UNCLOS can be considered a geography question. UNCLOS can also be considered say a IR question in context of maybe the South China Sea में जो disputes चलते हैं तो कई बार UNCLOS का reference लिया जाता है. ठीक है, तो what is UNCLOS के context में? United Nations Convention on Laws of Sea. A coastal state has a right to establish the breadth of its territorial sea up to a limit not exceeding 12 nautical miles. Yes, it is correct. Determined baseline के हिसाब से ship of all states whether coastal or landlocked enjoy the right of innocent passage है ना, innocent passage का right है. फिर EEZ shall not extend beyond 200 nautical miles. So in fact all the 3 statements are correct. Once again, yes, these countries and why they were in news. Chad setting up a permanent military base by China? नहीं. जिबूती में सेट किया है और इक्वेटोरियल गिनी में है ना एलेज किया था कि शायद इक्वेटोरियल गिनी में भी वो करना चाह रहे हैं, लेकिन चैड के कंटेक्स्ट में नहीं है। फिर गिनी, सस्पेंशन ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन एंड द गवर्नमेंट बाय मिलिट्री, यस ऐसा हुआ था वहाँ पे, द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन वाज सस्पेंडेड एंड द गवर्नमेंट बाय मिलिट्री। लेबनान में देयर वाज अ सीरियस कंसर्न ऑफ इकोनॉमिक डिप्रेशन, in fact it was said to be self imposed economic depression and major brain drain का भी concern था in Lebanon and it was in news that time. Tunisia, why otherwise also we study Tunisia, yeah, why do we refer to Tunisia otherwise? Arab Spring, it is the place where Arab Spring का genesis हुआ था. UPSC has also asked a question on it previously, prelims में. Yes, and Tunisia was in news, or Tunisia was the only country where Arab Spring was successful. They could get rid of their a dictator and a parliamentary democracy was established. And it was in news when 2022 में where suspension of the parliament by the president had taken place. Fine. So these three are correctly matched. Chad is not. So only 3 pairs are correctly matched. Once again, regions in news and the country. So Anatolia is Turkey. It is correct. Catalonia कहाँ है? स्पेन है, तो ये गलत है. Yes. फिर आमहारा and काबो डेलगाडो. देखो एनाटोलिया है ना, लेवांट एंड कॉकस, that is the है ना IR in international politics, these are the name. Turkey more or less Anatolia ही represent करता है. Then you have Caucasus countries. Which are the 3 Caucasus countries? Azerbaijan, Armenia and Georgia. These are the 3 Caucasus states which are in fact the breakaway countries of USSR. एशिया में 8 breakaway states of USSR है, और वो 8 कौन से? 3 तो Caucasus states है and 5 Central Asian republics. These are 8 countries which were once part of the Soviet Union. Fine. So ये Caucasus states भी बहुत important है क्योंकि यहाँ पे काफ़ी turmoil रहता है. Yes, and here look at these 3 countries. Out of these 3 countries, which is landlocked? Azerbaijan is a littoral country of the Caspian Sea, and Georgia is the littoral country of Black Sea. Only Armenia is landlocked. और यहाँ पे turmoil है ना, Georgia में turmoil है. So Sevastopol port, everything is linked. If you keep track with the developments, it was in news. Crimean Peninsula annexation. Why annexation? Sevastopol port. Why important? Black Sea Fleet important. Russia का Black Sea Fleet is stationed in Sevastopol port of Crimea. And Black Sea Fleet का क्या importance है? One of the biggest importance. It was sent by Russia to intervene in Georgia in 2008. ठीक है, तो इस तरह के ये सारे डेवलपमेंट्स अभी रशिया यूक्रेन वॉर के कंटेक्स्ट में वी वर रीडिंग ऑन, न्यूज़पेपर्स में भी आ रहा था, एंड वी वर रीडिंग ऑन टू दीज डेवलपमेंट्स. फाइन. सो वंस अगेन एन इम्पॉर्टेंट रीजन. और अभी ऐसा लग रहा है कि यूपीएससी लेवांट बहुत पूछ चुका है, सेंट्रल एशिया से भी 1-2 क्वेश्चंस आए हैं. मे बी सेंट्रल एशिया एंड कॉकसस कैन बी इम्पॉर्टेंट. यस, इन टर्म्स ऑफ ब्लैक सी, इन टर्म्स ऑफ कैस्पियन सी, है ना, ये रीजन के कंटेक्स्ट में कॉकस can become important. And northern Mesopotamia, yeah, the Levant region. यहाँ पे ये टर्की के पूरे पोर्शन को भी मान लिया, बट अदरवाइज हम सिर्फ ये हते प्रोविंस को मानते हैं और नीचे मानते हैं. तो एनाटोलिया इज टर्की. टिग्रे के नीचे ही है आमहारा. यस, आमहारा ये पूरा रीजन, टिग्रे, आमहारा, एंड यहाँ पे है अराफर या ऐसे करके कुछ है, अफार या है ना, आफर रीजन. सो ये तीनों रीजन वॉज इन न्यूज़, है ना. यहाँ ये फॉर अ लॉन्ग टाइम दे हैव फेस्ड अ लॉट ऑफ टर्मोइल, पॉलिटिकल इंस्टेबिलिटी. टिग्रे, अम्हारा एंड अफार रीजन यहाँ पे. यस, तो इथियोपिया और उसका कैपिटल अदीदिस अबाबा. मोजाम्बिक में है ना, काबो डेलगाडो. नाउ सी द गुड थिंग अबाउट दीज टॉपिक्स, एज आई वाज टेलिंग यू, these are in fact, if you look at in the exam, if you supposedly this year you have read your newspapers very thoroughly and next year you miss out on certain developments, है ना, ये हुए, but if you have read it once, you would know that Amhara, Tigray and this region are in fact part of, है ना, पार्ट ऑफ इथियोपिया. सो कहीं ना कहीं इस तरह के क्वेश्चंस आप कह सकते हो कि थोड़े स्टैटिक भी है. कंटेक्स्ट इज प्रोवाइडेड बाय करंट अफेयर्स, बट दीज आर डेवलपमेंट्स व्हिच हैव बीन गोइंग ऑन. 1970 से कैटालोनिया हैज़ बीन डिमांडिंग इंडिपेंडेंस, ऑन एंड ऑफ वो मूवमेंट, है ना, ऊपर नीचे होता रहता है, बट सो दैट इज़ हाउ थिंग्स आर. एंड इट इज़ इन मोजाम्बिक दैट यू हैव काबो डेलगाडो and Catalonia in Spain. Fine. With once again the G20 common framework, consider the following statement. It is an initiative endorsed by G20 together with the Paris Club. It is an initiative to support low income countries with unsustainable development death. Both are correct. Yes, the G20 common framework. Prelims 2021, only one question from IR. This was the only question. Yeah. Yes. Yes, so 21st February is declared to be International Mother Language Day by UNICEF. और दूसरा है, the demand that Bangla has to be one of the national languages was raised in the Constituent Assembly of Pakistan. कौन सा स्टेटमेंट करेक्ट है, क्या है? फर्स्ट स्टेटमेंट करेक्ट है या नहीं? सपोजिटली वी डोंट नो एनीथिंग अबाउट इट, सपोजिटली वी आर कंप्लीटली अनअवेयर. नाउ दिस स्टेटमेंट इफ यू रीड इट केयरफुली, इट सेज 21st February, yes, is declared to be the International Mother Language Day by UNICEF. यूनिसेफ करेगा? कौन सा बॉडी करेगा तो यूनेस्को करेगा, नॉट यूनिसेफ. yes children's emergency fund है ये, so it is not going to deal with mother language. So by logic we can probably cancel it out. And the demand for Bangla, in fact Bangla nationalism has been very strong. Bangladesh was once part of Pakistan. Yes, it is in 1971 that they have been established as a independent country by the help of India. Yes. So of course Bangla, it is quite a possibility. In fact, one of the reasons why Bangladesh separated from Pakistan was because of Bangla nationalism. ठीक है, 1956 Pakistan accepted Urdu to be the only official language, and this was not to the satisfaction of the Bangla population in East Pakistan then. ठीक है, तो यहाँ पे this is most probably correct. Constituent Assembly of Pakistan, yes, it would have been raised in the Constituent Assembly of Pakistan. So only 2 is correct. Prelims 2022, Siachen Glacier is situated east of Aksai Chin, east of Leh, north of Gilgit, north of Nubra Valley. North of Nubra Valley. Yes. This is Aksai Chin region, है ना? This is Aksai Chin and यहाँ पे क्या है? शक्शगाम. नॉर्थ ऑफ नुब्रा वैली होता वो, अगर वहाँ पे होता. Sakshgam Valley, which has been gifted by Pakistan to China. This is the Aksai Chin region. Yes, this is Aksai Chin region. और Nubra Valley, Nubra क्या है? Nubra is a tributary of Shyok river. Shyok is a tributary of Indus. तो ऐसा है ना, you have like this. तो you find that, और ये region है ना, जो ये region है, this region is Nubra Valley region, and you find that Siachen lies to north of Nubra Valley. और इस point को क्या बोलते हैं? ये जो point है NJ9842, ये बहुत important point है with respect to LOC, and इसके beyond there is a dispute between India and Pakistan. Therefore dispute whether Siachen is part of India or Siachen is a part of Pakistan. Siachen, but presently under control of India. through which operation? Operation Meghdut. Fine. Yes, these are some important agreements, and it relates to what? So Alma Ata Declaration, it is vis-a-vis primary health care. The Hague Convention is about child abduction convention. Yes. Then you have the Talanoa dialogue. It is about it is to enhance nationally determined contributions. Yes. And under 2 coalition is a global community of state and regional government committed to ambitious action in line with Paris Agreement. So accordingly you can, so under 2 is not about child rights. Taloana about global climate change, yes, somewhere about global climate change. Hague Convention, not about biological and chemical. Alma Ata and 1 and 3 are the correct answers. These are some things that you should know. Maybe they would have been covered in your current affairs magazines and stuff. Yes. Next is the value of, now this is something that you need to, maybe even if you have not studied it directly, you can apprehend it, you can come out with an conclusion. The value of Indo-Sri Lanka trade has consistently increased in the last decade. Yes. Now is it correct or not? Next statement is textile and textile articles constitute an important item of trade between India and Bangladesh. And in the last 5 years, Nepal has been the largest trading partner of India in South Asia. So Nepal is not, which is the largest? Bangladesh is. Yes, so this is incorrect. Textile and textile articles constitute an important article of trade between India and Bangladesh? Yes. Yes, in fact it is true. The value of Indo-Sri has consistently increased in the last decade. Now that is the point. It is not, it has increased in the last decade. Yes, can you? यहाँ पे क्या ये word important है? It is not just that it has increased in the last decade. तब तो ये होता है yes. But it has consistently, there is no year where there would have been a slump in bilateral trade. Now that is where the question becomes tricky. So generally, in fact this is untrue. There have been 1 or 2 years where there have been a decline in the trade between India and Sri Lanka. Fine. So in fact the answer is only 2. And a trade slump हुआ था in context of उनके यहाँ political volatility था, है ना? There was Mahindra Paksha government which was replaced. Yes, Sirisena had come in विक्रम सिंघे एंड सिरिसेना. तो विक्रम सिंघे और सिरिसेना का जब गवर्नमेंट था तो उनका डिसीजन मेकिंग बहुत वीक था, वो आपस में ही कम्पीट करते रहे. तो उस दौरान देर वॉज अ स्लम्प इन आर, है ना, ट्रेड विथ श्रीलंका. Which one of the following countries is a member of G20? So the membership of G20 has to be known. Which of these are which is the member? It is A, Argentina, Mexico, South Africa and Turkey. यहाँ पे मलेशिया नहीं है, ईरान नहीं है, और इसमें Singapore. Is it Singapore which is not a? I am also not sure. I think so. South Korea is not. So yes. Yes, Singapore is not there. Fine, Republic of Korea is there. Now in India, why are some nuclear reactors kept under IAEA safeguard while others are not? Because there is an international agreement whereby हमारे यहाँ अच्छा nuclear reactors kept under IAEA safeguards कब से शुरू हुआ ये? since India-US civil nuclear deal, since we got a special waiver from NSG, since then it has come to be that our nuclear reactors are placed under international safeguard. NPT में हमने पढ़ा होगा कि कॉम्प्रीहेंसिव सेफगार्ड अग्रीमेंट साइन करता है हर नॉन न्यूक्लियर वेपन स्टेट. एवरी नॉन न्यूक्लियर वेपन स्टेट साइंस कॉम्प्रीहेंसिव सेफगार्ड अग्रीमेंट. इंडिया हैज साइंड specified है ना specialized or specific safeguard agreement whereby we have agreed to place only those nuclear reactors under the surveillance of IAEA which use imported uranium or imported fuel. Fine. So some use uranium while others use thorium नहीं है. Some use imported uranium and others use domestic uranium. That is the correct answer. What is the issue with? So that we are not nuclearizing, we are not weaponizing the imported uranium. That is the idea. Because we are a nuclear weapon state, that is accepted, but the other countries should not aid in development of nuclear weapons. So the imported fuel that we use should not be weaponized. Yes? So prelims 2019 now. Recently India signed a deal known as the Action Plan for Prioritization and Implementation of Cooperation areas in the nuclear field. We had signed this agreement that year with Russia. Once again, consider the following pairs. Yes, bordering states, Adriatic Sea, Black Sea, Caspian Sea, Mediterranean Sea and Red Sea. Yes, now in such questions you can have your elimination technique. Caspian Sea, if we can just Black Sea पे चलो रशिया यूक्रेन वॉर के बाद ज़्यादा फोकस है, लेकिन उस ईयर कैस्पियन सी पे एक अग्रीमेंट साइन हुआ था इंटरनेशनली. Yes, regionally an agreement was signed. So Caspian Sea, we had discussed Caspian Sea and its littoral countries. Yes, so Caspian Sea की littoral countries, there is an mnemonic through which you can remember the littoral countries of Caspian Sea, and that is Tariq. Yes, so Turkmenistan, Azerbaijan, Russia, Iran and Kazakhstan are the littoral countries of Caspian Sea. तो इस वजह से Kazakhstan is correct. Now let's go to simple. If you can think of Mediterranean Sea, yes, you have Mediterranean Sea, and here you also have Africa. यहाँ पे you have Morocco. So है ना, Morocco के साथ Mediterranean Sea होगा. If you can think of Red Sea, you have the Arabian Peninsula. Here is the Red Sea, है ना. Horn of Africa है, Arabian Peninsula, यहाँ Red Sea है और यहाँ पे Persian Gulf है. Yes, तो Red Sea पे अगर सोच सकते हो, Syria, is it there on the Red Sea? Syria is in the Levant region. यहाँ पे ऊपर है ना, यहाँ पे है वो इस region में. So Syria is not here. So if you can just know that Syria is not you by elimination है ना, this would, अगर आपने थोड़ा भी IR पढ़ा है and you have looked at maps, Red Sea with Syria is a very easy conclusion because Levant region में है. Yes, it is located on top. Not है ना, यहाँ पे नहीं है. Red Sea में Syria का कोई रोल नहीं है. यहाँ पे Red Sea में, if I can just show it to you on map. See, this is the Red Sea. Syria का है, Mediterranean Sea पे Syria है, Red Sea पे Syria नहीं है. Yes, so Syria, Red Sea पे कौन कौन सी countries है? You would have Egypt, Sudan, Eritrea, Djibouti, है ना? You have Saudi Arabia, Yemen. These are the countries here. Fine. So it is in this context, if we could just mark out that the Caspian Sea, 3 is correct and 5 is wrong. 5 is wrong, these two are eliminated and 3 is correct. So these two remain and so only B is the correct answer. Fine. otherwise otherwise you need to know Black Sea पे Croatia है. Let's see it on the map. Black Sea पे Croatia is not there. Yes, let me show it to you on a clearer map. Yes, Black Sea पे you have these countries, but not Croatia. You have the Adriatic Sea. You find Adriatic Sea पे Croatia है, and they have mentioned Albania. Albania is not on Adriatic Sea. Fine. Now with reference to AIIB, consider the following statements. See, why do we include AIIB in IR? I have already discussed, because in IR, when IIB was conceptualized, we used to talk about why India is not part of BRI but has chosen to be part of AIIB. And even today we discuss the role of AIIB in preventing India or being an example of the continuous economic entanglement between India and China. So much so that despite the border disputes, the bilateral trade are growing. Yes, so AIIB, because we are the primary beneficiaries of it. So we cite it as one of the examples why of the continuous economic entanglement between India and China. Yes, so AIIB has more than 80 member nations. India is the largest shareholder. Abhi China hai. AIIB does not have any member from outside Asia. अगर 80 member countries हैं तो of course outside of Asia तो होंगे, है ना. और आज के दिन 106 member countries है. जब ये question पूछा था तो 97-98 countries थे. Fine. So anyways, so you find that this is correct. Only one is correct. Yes. 2 and 3 are wrong. Yes, that is, with this we conclude our class. In fact, just 5-10 minutes more. These were the few questions that they have asked as far as IR is concerned for the past 5 years. Yes, it is in the year 2022 and 2023 where we see increased number of questions from IR. Otherwise also 2014 for that matter was one such year where they had asked several questions from IR. Before you start packing up, if you can just yes, bear for 5-10 minutes more. So yes, one of you had asked a question, how to make notes of current affair magazines. Now see, it is up to you. Current affairs magazines from the perspective of prelims. Now since I have cited those areas, I would still suggest, see, it depends, it's an individual to individual case. But I would suggest maybe mark those areas as important rather than making notes out of it. And if you still feel the need that to have those 2-3 handy pages, yes, if you can make notes out of your जो monthly current affairs magazines मिलता है. Otherwise you also have the PT 365. वहाँ से you cannot make notes. That is already in a notes format from prelims perspective. लेकिन monthly magazine से if you want, है ना, you can do not change your page with every month, है ना, on the same page if you can, maybe keep jotting down whatever you think is important from prelims perspective. That is how you can go about, because towards the end then no need to refer to the monthly magazines, at least for IR, only PT 365 and those notes that you have made out. And you would have seen several examples of questions on similar lines that they have been asking. Fine. What else? Any other doubt? How to make notes of IR from mains and prelims perspective, both. देखो, notes of IR अभी depends how are you studying your IR. See, yes, please, 5 minutes. Yes, as far as notes making of IR is concerned, in your mains also, if you look at the question, the context, the reason why a question is asked, because there was some development in the recent times. So current affairs provides the the context of the question, but you need some background. For example, last year the question was the statement on India-Sri Lanka relations. The first statement read that a friend in need is friend indeed, है ना, something on those lines. So basically, एंड फिर उसके बाद क्वेश्चन था द करंट इकोनॉमिक क्राइसिस एंड रोल ऑफ इंडिया. अगर आपने आंसर सिर्फ करंट इकोनॉमिक क्राइसिस एंड रोल ऑफ इंडिया पे लिखा तो आपने अधूरा आंसर लिखा है. द क्वेश्चन वाज डिमांडिंग एन इंट्रोडक्शन वेयर बाय यू हैव टू गिव सर्टेन एविडेंसेस ऑफ इंडिया हैविंग प्लेड सच रोल इन द पास्ट. yes, when Sri Lanka was in need, India did come out in support of it. और उसके साथ अगर आपको बहुत अच्छे नंबर चाहिए तो आप उसका रीज़न भी लिखोगे. यही है यूपीएससी का लिखने का, आंसर लिखने का तरीका. यू गिव एग्जाम्पल्स या एविडेंसेस एंड देन रीजंस फॉर द सेम. तो उस कंटेक्स्ट में आपको थोड़ा बैकग्राउंड चाहिए. अब बैकग्राउंड कहाँ से आएगा? इफ़ यू हैव डन सम कोचिंग, है ना, कहीं से आपने पढ़ा या कोई नोट्स आपने पढ़े हैं, तो मे बी दैट टीचर वुड हैव डेल्ट विथ सम बेसिक बैकग्राउंड विच इज़ रिक्वायर्ड. We do not need too much background in detail because please remember there is going just 15 marker, 250 शब्द लिखने हैं या 150 से 200 शब्द, उसके beyond नहीं लिखना है. तो you don't need to delve in too much into the background, but you need to have some idea of the background so that if and when it is asked, you can write your answer accordingly. For example, they had once asked a question on India-Pakistan relations, which I can just recall now, about the cross-border sponsoring of terrorism by Pakistan. Pulwama attack के context में, if I am not mistaken, or otherwise, maybe in context of Uri attack also they had asked a question. So there also, if we could refer to, since when did Pakistan choose to wage sub-conventional warfare against India, and why did it choose to do so? Fine, so that much background is required. और वो background, as I was telling you, if you are referring to some, है ना, material of some coaching institute, you will get that background. Books, as far as IR is concerned, I do not recommend any book because IR is very dynamic and books become redundant from your IR perspective. There is no such book. जैसे लक्ष्मीकांत है for that matter, या वो भी आज के दिन थोड़ा थोड़ा redundant हो रहा है जिस तरह का question पूछते हैं. उसके beyond you have maybe modern Indian history के लिए you have spectrum. There is no such book for IR. Yes, so no books to be referred. Current affairs, अगर आप कोई coaching नहीं refer कर रहे हो तो maybe you have to be more thorough with your newspaper reading, and that from there only you will develop your background on your own. Yes, cost benefit analysis would suggest you the same. तो अगर कुछ ऐसा नहीं किया है आपने, then you maybe need to make notes out of it. और नोट्स कैसे बनाने हैं? नोट्स इशू बेस्ड बनाने हैं, है ना, एवरी डेवलपमेंट पे नहीं बनाना. अब एक इशू पे मानो 10 आर्टिकल आए हैं तो अकॉर्डिंगली यू मेक नोट्स. अब वो इशू को आपने रख लिया सेंटर पे, उसके अराउंड जो भी आर्टिकल्स आए हैं वो उसको आपने, है ना, what I would do is when we make notes in the class also, UPSC का requirement है, the points that you mention should be very crisp and they should be very different from one another. Tangible points which you can count on your fingertips. और different heads होने चाहिए, cause, effect, pros, cons, consequence, है ना. और जब आप आर्टिकल पढ़ते हो आपको ये चीज़ समझ में आती है कि ये पैराग्राफ कॉन्सिक्वेंस डिस्कस कर रहा है, ये पैराग्राफ कॉज डिस्कस कर रहा है. yes, and accordingly you number it, and then if you have read that article by underlining and if you have read it twice, at times it is the requirement कि आपको 2 बार पढ़ना पड़ता है. आप अंडरलाइन भी कर रहे होते हो, मार्किंग भी कर रहे होते हो और फिर आप 2 बार पढ़ते हो. उसके बाद you develop a mental framework where you can make a framework like structure and make notes. और जहाँ पे आपको रेफरेंस करना है, फैक्ट तो न्यूज़पेपर तो सामने, you can just go back and write it in your own words and in a form of a framework, a flow chart. That helps you make notes, quicker, easier notes which will be of utility, which you will also want to read. क्योंकि रिवाइज किए बिना तो कोई मतलब ही नहीं. नोट्स बनाए और रिवाइज नहीं किया तो इट इज़ equivalent to not making notes. Yes, so that is the idea. Anything else? हाँ, PSIR ऑप्शनल के वो आप मुझसे इंडिविजुअली पूछ लीजिए. और कोई क्वेश्चन है? ठीक है, दैट इज इट देन. You can come to me, I'll explain you the PSIR approach. Yes, thank you.